about trouble and trying to be responsible, one-sided news stories.
Of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Hey everyone, Dave here, December 1773. With me as always is Ryan, and this is The Weekly Show. And as always, be sure to catch all of The Weekly Show by clicking in the bottom right hand of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And, there's other outlets to find us too. You can find us on Facebook and things like that.
Parler,
which is the outlet that does not block our posts. Speaking of blocking posts, Google was kind enough to allow us to run an ad recently, so that was nice of them.
Thank you, Google.
For that. Thank you, Google. We did not mention the Ministry of Truth. We did not mention the elections in that ad. We didn't do it in the last one either, but they shut that one down. So I don't know. It seems like they kind of choose whatever they want to choose.
Well, you know what it is, right, Dave? It's our interest in New Zealand elections. I wanted to open the podcast this week with a little, not necessarily a personal story, something I observed this weekend. I spent some time with some young gentlemen, school-age people, we'll say. And I kind of got like a nice barometer of the room, per se. You know, like I was with them for an extended period of time, couple hours, and there was a lot of them. You know, I've always been around children, so I kind of can not relate to them, but, you know, I've had kids around, so I know what it's like. Anyways, there was some kids that were like rather conservative. And it was just like an observation I made. Some of the words they were using, social justice warriors would have been up in arms over, you know, like jokingly insulting each other, you know, as boys do and everything. But it was just really like, I've heard it put, I've seen statistics that say like the next generation, you know, like high schoolers and middle schoolers now, they're going to be more conservative than we are, the millennial generation. And I definitely felt like that was the case last night. And it's not like I gave them political quizzes. Like, how do you feel about foreign intervention or debt or public housing or UB? I didn't quiz them, but just, I guess their demeanor, things they were saying, like I said, it was just very, it was a relaxed environment too. You know, it wasn't like we were just hanging out, and it was just a keen observation that that every opposite reaction and stuff, you know, that's all true. For every reaction, there's an opposite one. It's true, man. Like, you can only push things so far one way before they kind of fall the other way. And I was thinking to myself, tying into this, that like we lost, I know we talked about a little on the podcast before, but we've lost like that segment of politics that there was liberal conservatives, as far as like social liberal conservatives, economically conservative, but socially liberal. And then we also lost the other side the same way. We lost the conservative Democrats, you know, and like, since we lost that, it's harder to compromise and stuff. I know, like, it seems right now things are super bad, but what I mean is that was like 20, 30 years ago, there was a lot of public discourse that it seemed, at least on paper, politically, it was a little healthier. I just think, like I said, these kids they're so much different than, you know, our generation, as far as like the outrage culture, the cancel culture. You know, I know that stuff is normally excluded to very specific circumstances where experience it, but I know people personally, you know, that are, you could call it social justice-y, you know, like that level of don't hate gays, and, you know, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like, as long as we can have a discussion, fine. But I just think it's like very important to highlight that there's like there's like stages of politics in play right now through multiple generations, as there always is. But I think we need to keep an eye on that kind of stuff, because you're really kind of seeing how these people are falling, what the future of politics will hold. That's what's always important with like elections that have consequences, right? That was cycled this year a lot with the Supreme Court pick for Trump. But they do. And the outlasting consequences is the next generation of voters, which is all these younger people that I was exposed to.
Headlines. House passes Tiger King bill to outlaw private ownership of big cats.
Wasn't there an attack at who was the girl's name?
Carol Baskin.
I think somebody got attacked at her facility recently as well.
She's going after all these big cat people, but she's doing the exact same thing all of them were doing. It's very frustrating.
So you suddenly care about big cats, David?
No, I don't care at all, to be honest with you. But I hate the blatant hypocrisy of it all. And granted, you can do things with film to make things however it is, but they were interviewing her in front of one of these tiny little cages, and she's like, I just hate to see big cats in small cages. And I'm talking, when I say a small cage, this thing was, I don't know, 4 feet by 2 feet. It was tiny, and it was like in there. It was probably just where it eats or whatever, but just the visual image of that, the worst. Plus, she killed her husband.
So the House passed a bill to outlaw the sale of big cats.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think big cats will still get sold?
Yes.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
How come I've never seen a tiger for sale at PetSmart?
You're looking in the wrong place. You can't go to PetSmart for your tigers.
So there's a tiger cat store? Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Okay. With this being said, there's probably plenty of state laws that allow for you to own a big cat.
Yeah.
There's probably
I would say this.
Not against it, right?
I almost guarantee, even in the most free of states, that you still probably need some kind of permit or something to own a tiger. Just a guess.
Yeah, they probably want to know how many, 7,000 tigers you got living in Texas or whatever it is.
Yeah, if I were to guess, like, if you live in like Florida or something, you probably don't just bring a cat home like nothing. I'm guessing you got to apply for all types of permitting. Just a guess.
Joe Rogan said in one of his Netflix specials that there is more tigers in private captivity in zoos in the state of Texas than there is in all of the wild.
Yeah. Yeah, they actually...
Which is proof that capitalism is the way to save the world. Thank you. Next question.
I was going to say they mentioned that in the documentary. But the thing people don't want to point out is tigers in captivity have been dying. Or not in captivity, in the wild. They've been dying. And in captivity, they've been staying alive. So people look at quality of life and everything. If your only standard is life and death, you can draw your own conclusions. But.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, dangerous freedom, right? I'd rather be an uncaged lion and die than live forever and be in a cage.
That's the question.
Well, that's freedom,
freedom versus security.
It's a prevailing theme, David, in human history.
Human and now tiger history. You brought up Joe Rogan. I have an interesting headline about Joe Rogan. This confuses me because this has been known for a long time now, but headlines. Joe Rogan fans outraged after podcast moves exclusively to Spotify. I thought that was the plan for quite some time.
Yeah, for almost a whole year now.
Yeah. Why are they so caught off guard? Actually, he was supposed to already be exclusively Spotify, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he said he was going to have clips on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and he does. And that's how somebody found out about it, apparently. They're like, oh, I saw the clip, but in the clip, they said you had to go to Spotify to see the whole video. Well, yeah, that's what he said 10 months ago or whatever. I don't even remember how long ago it was he signed.
That's why they paid him $100 million plus.
Yeah, they wouldn't do it if you could still be on YouTube. Yeah.
I'm sure YouTube offered him a lot more.
I don't
Apple
know.
too.
Maybe.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure.
Maybe.
I'm sure. From my understanding, Spotify is one of the streaming companies that tries to like own your shit. Like they try to like they want to own the podcast and have you be like an employee.
Yeah, that was the
Even
original
if it's
offer,
your show.
if I remember correctly. Yeah. It was ownership, and he said no chance any of that happens.
I'll stay on YouTube.
Headlines. Biden on Harris. If we have a fundamental disagreement, then I'll develop some disease and say I have to resign.
What the fuck did you just say?
Biden was talking about Harris. And he
Is
said,
that a real thing, David?
Yes. So this goes back. What the
fuck did he say?
He said if he has a fundamental disagreement with his VP, he'll just say he has a disease and he'll resign. I don't see anything major about that. No red flags there. He mentioned this a while back, apparently. When you read the article, it goes into the fact that when he was a VP for Obama, he said the same thing, apparently. It's a very weird thing to say. And this also points to the idea that I thought Biden was the moderate guy, and he's saying he has no fundamental disagreements with Harris.
The great uniter can't even unite with this VP? What kind of second string bullshit is this? What a weak and pathetic candidate.
It's a really weird position to be.
The great uniter is the most elected guy ever, numerically in voting, ever in history of America. Yeah, I'll just resign.
Any fundamental disagreement with the person I picked? I'll just say I have a disease and resign.
David, I thought she was his VP, not the other way around.
Yes, she's his VP. And she's the more radical one, and he's the moderate, but they don't have any fundamental disagreements.
They said she's not radical. We got nothing to worry about because he's the great moderate.
Ooh.
The great uniter. You know what's also funny? The most powerful man in the world is bending over backwards for like the 10th most powerful person in the world.
Apparently, you just got to do what you got to
do. So this brings up another question. If he will do that with his vice president, who else will he do it with? Because people are not happy with his candidate picks already.
Sure.
Some are like Clinton lawyers and Clinton era big lobbyists. And I thought you guys wanted the old normal.
Yeah, there was a Republican guy who was like a head of a bank or something for Secretary of State.
No. Shut your mouth.
He's a uniter. He picked a Republican.
Yeah, uniter. That helped rob us of our future.
Well, yes.
If I have any fundamental disagreement with my VP, I will resign, and she'll just take over.
Well, he won't just resign. He'll say he has a disease.
So he is sick and ill.
Perhaps.
Okay. I'm like almost like physically upset here over this. This is like this is a little ridiculous.
This isn't even my bad one.
Well, how can you not say the guy's unfit for presidency then?
Oh, he's very fit until he has a disagreement.
Yeah, he's saying like he can selectively be like on death's door, basically. That I can't do this anymore. So why'd you run? Oh, did you run because you knew you couldn't run Harris as your president? That's why Tulsi Gabbard ate her apart. So then you move her into a position that's unelected, right? Like she wasn't elected. She was elected by the guy you elected.
Yeah. She's someone elected.
Yeah, by Joe Biden. Biden was the nomination already before you picked the vice president candidate. So the person that couldn't run as president because she was unpopular at the mass running of Americans, except for the pocket cities that she's super hot at. So you run with the great moderate, the uniter, the guy that gets us back to the status quo of raping us. And then, is this the plan the whole time? You expect me to not believe in conspiracies, and then everything that you line up and grease the skids for seems like a fucking conspiracy. This sounds like you're setting me up for President Kamala Harris.
It does sound that way a little bit, sure. Ryan, I'm not going to lie to you.
What are we doing?
This was my bad headline.
I hope not. I got one that boils my blood that I could talk. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, because we might have the same one. I'm going to try to settle you down a little bit.
I wasn't going to go to my point. I wanted to specifically break down my point because it's absolutely appalling to me that we allow this transparency of thievery of our nation.
Well, at least they're being transparent.
I turned on Joe Biden talking wherever he was the other day for it was live going on, and I clicked on the video, and when I clicked on it, he was he couldn't even talk. I turned it off. I wasn't even going to listen to what he.
Well, see, he must have some kind of disease.
Yeah, maybe he should just have
He must have had a disagreement with his VP.
Joe Biden didn't drink his lemon water and tea today, so Kamala's going to give the speech. That's how they'll do it, too. Oh, Joe broke his ankle, right? He hurt his ankle. He can't do the tour. So the VP is taking his place. And then it's all Joe's a little lazy. He's got COVID. He's got the flu. And then she'll take over for him, too. State of the Union speech. Grease in the skids, man.
I'm interested to see what comes from this. This one is. We talked about this a little bit in the chat, and this has more in depth than it does on the face. But headlines: House votes to federally decriminalize marijuana. On the surface, it seems. I guess on the surface, it's the right move. How many pages do you think it should be to decriminalize marijuana? How many pages should that? 1 page? Is that plenty? I mean, you could probably even double.
How come we can have executive actions that are half a page with small spacing to shut down the fucking government and economies and civilization, but to just pass legislation, they're thousands of pages. So I read in the bill. For all my burners out there, the bill is including a 5% federal tax on marijuana. And the bill basically, I've not read it, but from what the news has told me to believe, that it's going to basically decriminalize it at the federal level so that the states can do whatever they want to do with it. Okay, so that is going to open. It's weird they can selectively pick the amendments they want to use because that's the 10th Amendment. Regardless, you're paying 0% tax now on weed. So why would you willingly give people more money?
Yeah,
Power to tax is the power to destroy.
Oh, goodness.
Can you download a PDF without crashing your phone?
I did successfully. I'll say this. It's a relatively small bill. It's only about 50 pages.
Yeah. It seems like at least 40 pages too much.
Yeah, that's about right. I think it's 42.
There's a lot of pork barrel stuff in there.
Yeah. So we're going to be seeing that over the next few days. I mean, it's very obvious that you don't need a 50-page bill to pass federal decriminalization. First of all, you don't need that. But secondly, you don't need it at all because if you look at the Constitution from, I'm trying to remember the exact date, 200-something years ago, it has nothing, there's no power at all given to the federal government to deal with drug usage. None of it goes to the federal government. We'll ignore that, though.
Was the war on drugs
unnecessary bill.
Was the war on drugs the crime bill and everything? I mean, those were all passed on stuff, but the actual start of the war on drugs and everything, wasn't that just shoved through too? Reagan just enacted the United Nations federal guideline. That's what it is, David. Is the United Nations comes down because if you look at our drug policies in the United Nations, they're the same thing. Weed and heroin are Schedule 1 and everything like that. The scheduling comes from the United Nations program. So we just adopted it. Because the United Nations is something that we elect those people to that position, right?
No.
I didn't think so. So why do we listen to them?
Ryan, are you saying the drug war is a globalist movement?
Yeah. It's probably it's probably a globalist movement to destroy cities and then yeah.
And then countries?
Yep. And they pick the cities because that's where most people live. Just so happens to be filled with minorities too, so they suffered it. And then nowadays, 30 years later, or 50 years, however we're long in this drug war, cops hate, apparently cops hate everybody with brown skin. And yeah, we can tear down statues and do anything else. And, cops are stop going places. Defunding the police doesn't mean defunding the police. I mean, don't worry about it. It's weird that the riots have stopped, right? They just suddenly shut off because they got their way.
Well, sort of.
American people weren't bullied at all into this election.
Maybe it's cold.
You know what? It's amazing they wanted to impeach the guy over foreign intervention, but when there's domestic intervention, it's just politics.
It's just politics. Politics as usual.
Old new normal.
Old new normal. I have one more for you. Surely you've seen this. Headlines. I hate how this is worded too. It's phrased as a question. Would you be willing to get a COVID vaccine in exchange for a $1,500 stimulus check? How one bold proposal would work. Not bad. Trade in some vaccinations for some government cash.
Because they can't pass it in our legislator? You're going to bribe me to get money that we should get anyways. You give trillions to corporations. Trillions of dollars. For corporate welfare that they fuck us with. There's people getting by, supposed to get by on one check you gave them at the beginning of a year. The stimulus talks aren't going to happen overnight. We're almost at the end of a Congress session. And then you're telling me that there's one bold proposal that I have to get injected to receive money that we were told we were going to be getting.
Yes, it does seem that way.
It sounds like a lottery system here. Like I'm just putting, hey, come here, everybody. Stand in line. Pick your number. And then, when it's your turn, you're going to come and pick out of the bowl for your stimulus check. This is the modern day breadline. Biological breadline. That's what this is.
I don't mind that phrase.
Biological breadline, dude. I have to exchange. I have to exchange with my government. Man, we got a wrong idea, people. So that was it. I just get stuck in that. Do I get to check that day or I got to wait?
Well, I'm sure you don't receive
instant
it.
Check?
No, probably not.
So I get the vaccine right away. I get the prick with none of the reward right away.
Brian, if it makes you feel better...
that's right. Because if you just had a stack of them, you could give them to me without getting your fucking shot. You know what? I'd love to know how much the vaccine companies are making right now, considering that they're immune from any kind of lawsuits that comes from these vaccines that they're giving us. They don't know if it has any effect on fertility.
I can't say I know what they're making. I can say some of the company's stocks skyrocketed when there was news.
I wonder if maybe that's why the Dow Jones reached 30,000 points. The economy's not real, though. The stock market's not real. These people are just making billions of dollars hand over fist. And then they're exempt. Newsflash, people. They're exempt from all liabilities regardless. All the manufacturers are. Since like the 80s. Any of the vaccines. That's where a lot of anti-vax traction comes from. Is that these companies can just make whatever and they're not even held to liable standards. There's private vaccine courts that if your kid gets hurt, you have to go to a court that's not shown in public opinion. There's no court documents released. There's no public testimony released. There's none of that. It's a secret court to deal with the fallout from vaccines that had people that have had negative effects from them. They're secret. They were already immune. And then you're going to mass peddle this one. And then your bold proposal. This isn't bold. This is a strategy. This is a plan. It's not a proposal. This is a plan. It's got to be. It's got to be a plan. This isn't just coincidence. The Great Reset, it's been cycled in the media. The old normal, the new normal. Come on, people. Trump's build that wall. It's so funny. Build the wall was an idiotic slogan and not real. But old normal is. New normal is. They say the same slogans. And they told you they're going to re-engineer society. Now they tell you the check won't come until the proposal. I'm sorry. I don't want to make it sound like this is a law already because they haven't made laws. They just passed recommendations for everybody. This is it's ridiculous. I don't want to just keep ranting about it, but at what point does the rubber meet the road? That business owner in Orchard Park is the beginning. I mean, he might be the rock that starts the avalanche, but we're a little off here. Congress can't do its job, legislatures can't do their job. So your solution is to bribe me, because the people that I elect and I pay for the rest of my life through taxes, they can't do their job. For whatever reason. What was Nancy's reason, right? What was Chuck Schumer's reason for not getting bills passed? Well, there's not enough money for poor people. Okay, well, nobody's getting any money now. Nobody got any money. Even poor people. You hate the poor people and then you wait 8 months? What are you doing? You have a job to do, don't you? When's their Christmas break start? Tomorrow? I mean, what are we doing here? If my kid can do school from a video Congress on it every day trying to figure this out, the people we elected.
Do you think this is a soft way to introduce long-term mandates of vaccinations?
Yes. It's a soft term of everything.
Sure, you can expand beyond vaccinations in general. It's probably a
but they
easy
gotta
way
start
to...
with the vaccines, because right now, terrorism didn't work. It worked a little bit, but an invisible enemy that's on our home soil that you can't even detect or see or smell or test for, it's not like we can just wipe a counter down with a rag and it change a color and then you see that it's COVID. Maybe there's a new business opportunity right there for somebody. Color changing COVID rags.
Would they be 50% accurate, like the rapid test?
Still more than anything else we got right now. But this has worked. I mean, I went out shopping Black Friday. I went there for something for myself. Happy Christmas. But I was standing there. There's old people, every age, babies, and we're all standing around with masks. I looked at everybody. I was just like, this is messed up. Like, this is all messed up.
Yeah, it's interesting.
The same people complaining about dying and killing grandparents, they're out shopping. You can't have it both ways. I've never cared about this virus. My parents, God bless them, I love them, but they said, honey, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. We're not living in fear. I social distance and wear my mask. As much as it pisses me off that the way it got done, we just have such skewed priorities. The same people complaining are out shopping. But yeah, this is a soft way to do not just vaccines, but it doesn't end. It was terrorism. It was Vietnam. It was, the Japan, whatever the enemies had to be that we've identified. This time it just happens to be an invisible alien that can kill everybody, apparently, and we can't even test for it right. I'll tell you what, though. Public school going forward, yeah, stricter mandates. You got to have all your vaccines, probably even the flu vaccine now. And maybe jobs, maybe just to work at a job now, you'll have to have your vaccinations. Right? Because it's only at school that it's a problem, right? For recommendation. Well, maybe
Sure.
Now this transfers into the workplace, into college. I mean, yeah, sky's the limit, man. I got a couple of headlines if I can find them quick. But I want to piggyback and tie into the point we were just talking about. I can't find it right now, but I know it was. I think it was Scotland. they talked about how government has a new role with the COVID pandemic.
Ooh. Shiny new role for government.
David, let me ask you something. Is it up to the media or politicians to decide the role of government?
Well, that is neither the answer.
I was pretty sure we, the people, decide the role of government. Right? If you're a democracy-leaning country. I mean, sure. Scotland is a democracy, right? Right? Sort of. They have a parliament, right?
Sure.
My point is there is no new role for government, people. We don't give government roles. They have a terrible job of doing the role they were given.
Yeah. Why would we they kind of just seem to assume new roles on their own.
Ah, it's weird. Without the consent of the governed, right, David?
Sure, and just appointed unelected bureaucrats, and they're just given jobs by this shiny government, and you get your new roles.
Oh, David, so you mean like the FBI, the CIA, the CDC, the NSA, the NASA, NFATA, tobacco, alcohol, firearms.
Yes, all those ones.
The Justice Department, Homeland Security.
Yeah, those. Yep, those two.
I feel like I ran out of them, but I know I didn't.
It's amazing when you sit there and list them how expanded the government became without any of us making it happen. It's fascinating. They got way larger without our help.
Yeah, it's weird, ain't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of like it started super small.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And it just got super big. It's weird. It's almost like the government conquered its people.
Do you think you can make a fair legal assertion that we have taxation without representation with all these appointed, non-elected officials?
Yes. I think you can make a legal representation for all of that. The problem is to prove that in court would cost so much money that we would have to have like a GoFundMe page for all of America. Because that needs to happen with like thousands of lawyers. You know what I mean? Like thousands of lawyers. But the lawyers are part of the system because they're entrenched in all of the benefits of all the legal bills. You know, the thousands and thousands of dollars you pay for divorce goes to the lawyer too. You know, and everybody's owned their worth. That's not what this... It's just that the legal system at some point has become a revenue system in some of these states. I'll never forget. I sped. It was in a work zone, so I'm batting off 1,000 here. Nobody was working. All that.
Brian, don't you know that New York? Don't you know that New York fines double in a work zone?
I do. They have signs at every work zone. So that's matters to me when I actually see people working there. Right. I looked. Yeah, I just, I blew through. Nobody got hurt, nothing, but I got nabbed by cops. I go to court. I'm just going to pay a parking ticket. And I was going to pay with my credit card, my debit card. They're like, oh, that's a $25 surcharge. I said, oh. I asked them. I said, what's the surcharge for? And they're like, oh, it goes to the state. I said, why does it go to the state? They're like, I don't know. That's just what happens. I said, are you fucking kidding me? It goes to the government. He's like, yeah. I was like, this is ludicrous. And I was like, I know it has nothing to do with you, but I gave him my card and paid my extra $25 like a good little bitch. So Andrew Cuomo can lecture me about how I don't do my job properly as a COVID spreader.
Super spreader.
We're going to contact trace everybody except elected officials. But back to my one point before I vened off into the reeds here. The guy was from Scotland, okay? And he said they talked about universal basic income. And the reason he became a proponent of it, wait for it, was because the effects that the lockdown had on the economy.
Oh, interesting.
It's weird. It's almost as if there was no lockdown on the economy, you wouldn't have a need for universal basic income. If I'm using his logic was, and he was against it at first. I've been against universal. Of course, it was a CNN article on top of it.
Sure.
So yeah, using his logic, which is because of the pandemic's fallout economically, we need government universal basic income. Okay. Well, my logic is, if there was no universal lockdown of our economy, you wouldn't need universal basic income from the government. Someone called me a conspiracy theorist, David. Even though, like we talked about the other week, conservatism built this country. I wish that we could have, I touched on this earlier, I wish we could have literally all the conservative policies and just remove all of the crap that the left throw at it. Like, oh, you're racist. Okay, give all the minorities the same thing. All right, you're against the gays. Give gays and trans all the same thing. You're against abortion. Let's debate that and figure that out. But like economic policy, strength in military, borders, you know what I mean? Lower taxes. Like if we had all of that plus all of the social things, the gay marriage, I said abortion we talk about, but like that stuff, decriminalization of drugs, like, but with conservative economic principles, because that's what built the country. You can say anything about taxing the rich and everything else. Dude, they built the greatest generation, didn't have a minimum wage. They didn't have child labor laws. They gave us, the labor laws were created because of them. It's just so crazy. All right, I touched on the COVID vaccine manufacturers. Yeah, have you heard about the number of Democratic politicians that traveled while there was travel bans?
No. Did they do a number?
I don't have the number, but it's plentiful. Like it's many, many representatives. It's not a couple. Like these are the people that we've elected to tell us what to do in a time of a pandemic and emergency. The same people telling me I don't take it seriously are saying that they're caught traveling. Andrew Cuomo, New York State Police said that they saw Cuomo in Williamsville. He had police escorts and everything. And he's like, nah, it never happened. Now, regardless if it did or not, we don't even know because there's no transparency in government. But I have to have full transparency. I have to have my records tapped. I have to have my vaccines. I have to have contact tracing. I have to do social distancing. I have to have my picture taken to make sure all this stuff. But they can just have tinted windows and just roll through the neighborhood and do whatever they want. This is let them eat cake, man.
Yeah.
This is Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake. San Francisco had the stay-at-home order. They issued it for millions of people. Don't leave your house. It's crazy, dude. I get it. COVID deaths are at all-time highs. I saw a number that said that more people died in one day from COVID than did during 9/11 or Pearl Harbor. So,
I suppose
we went to war. We went to wars over that stuff. Now I know it's not mutually exclusive. We were literally attacked. They were terrorist attacks on our country. They're not just this invisible, which is so weird because you're comparing apples and apples for the numbers, but they're not. You can't, but you can't.
What?
I understand the premise of trying to envision what we did because of this. Okay, that's fine. But I'm not willing to sacrifice destroying. I have another thing. It's 60% of small businesses. A third of New York and New Jersey small businesses close because of this. I'm not willing to risk that.
Is that temporary or permanent?
It says closes. Closes. Temporary, we'll see how long this keeps going. But sure. I'm not willing to risk that. I'm not willing to risk our economy. I'm not. And it sounds selfish and you don't care about rich people, but we can't overwhelming the hospital system. We can't have any of that without our wealth. We don't have hospitals without wealth. We can't just tell people to stay home and the government will give you money. It's not feasible. Our government was not structured to do that in this time. You know what I mean? We have $27 trillion in debt before this. And you're talking about a new role of government. The government didn't fulfill the role it had. It's failed its role. Financially. Not to mention other things. We talk about every week all the problems that the left says and the problems the right says. Obviously, it's not perfect. It's never been perfect. But, we have things to do. And I'm not willing to close my economy down. I'm not willing to destroy people's livelihoods and private businesses and local economies that might never recover. You can put an Amazon and a Walmart in any community, but that's not directly going to lead to prosperity. It's not going to lead to people opening private businesses. All it's going to lead to is a bunch of factory workers living in a neighborhood. We're not going to build local connections and economies and local grocery stores and everything if we just shut things down because of a virus that we can't contain.
I think that brings up a point we brought up earlier, though. But who should be in charge of having that kind of say if you're closing your businesses down?
The business owner. If we can go to Walmart and other stores or whatever it is, if the CDC guidelines do not say anything about closing businesses, am I right?
But that even expands the point even further because the CDC is not an elected position. There's nobody in the CDC who's elected.
It's true. They're appointed.
They're appointed. So we have this is what we have. This is the grand scale of everything. We have an appointed federal agency, people from an appointed federal agency that was created out of thin air without any elections, without any say of people who were taxed or non-taxed, regardless. Nobody had a say in it. And those people are now closing and mandating things to you, closing your businesses, mandating masks. This is major. These aren't even elected people. Nobody voted for anyone in the CDC.
This is economic terrorism. This is economic terrorism. What else do you call it? The governor of New York said that the deficit will double because of this. No, it doubled because you closed the fucking economy. It's so amazing. It's like they have no accountability, obviously. Even elections, there's not enough accountability in. And you could argue, apparently, they're stolen, which I have something I want to get to about that. But, like, Giuliani, don't bring the craziest woman you meet to a hearing that you're trying to be taken seriously, you idiot. Anyways. Yeah, they make these decisions and they're like, wow, look at this. We need universal basic income. It's like, no, we don't. We need to open the economy and let people like have a business and like start wealth. Like we need the transfer of wealth between the average person. We're watching the largest wealth transfer in the history of this country. We're closing everything down except all the rich ones. Walmart and Amazons and gas stations and the essential businesses. And then job numbers. 245,000 jobs in the month of November. It's probably not the best numbers. It's not 450,000 like Trump had when he was reopening the economy. But I guess it's better than nothing. But how many jobs are lost?
That's the number they don't like to show or tell.
What if they lost 100,000 jobs? Okay, I'll just do a quick number roughly. If a third of small businesses closed in New York and New Jersey, we'll just take a third of 240,000. And then we'll say a third of that maybe might not have a job, you know, as far as like losing a job. So, I mean, we're pissing in one pail and pouring out the other. That's what we're doing. And we're saying like, look at my pail. It's filled with piss. Like, dude, but we're trying to get as many buckets of piss as we can. You just dumped half of it out. I mean, at some point here, I'm going to circle around to one of our other points about biological, what did I say, biological breadline? I got another one for you. China wants to have a DNA bank ready for the next disease.
A DNA bank?
They want to collect the world's DNA.
So not just China.
Oh, you mean the country that lied about COVID?
But Ryan, they had such a tremendous.
They lied about COVID. The papers were leaked this week, David. CNN had to fucking admit it. They lied. The World Health Organization.
They covered it up.
Mainstream media.
With them.
I guarantee. Media. Greasing the skids. China's doing great, locking people in their houses, welding the doors shut, delivering rice by helicopter. They had them. They were all in bed with the president for life in the Communist Republic of China. All in bed. Then it comes out. Leaked. It's amazing it's right after the election. Amazing. Amazing. Just like the vaccine. Nah, it won't be ready before the end of the year. come December, we'll have 100 million doses right. That's a third of the country.
Why is everyone surprised? Can we go to that real quick? Why is everyone surprised? We've been being told this for months.
Well, it's fake news, David. The president's a liar.
That's right. That's right. There's no way it'll happen. Well, here we are.
It's also amazing now that the vaccines are made, you're not talking about how much fucking money they're making, but you hate the rich. Giving Bill Gates billions for his not elected organization to tell me how to run a country when it comes to science-related material. I'm sure the people that Bill Gates employs, I'm sure they're not biased at all. But Trump's people are biased. You can have one thing, you can have the other, but you can't have them both, people. So back to China and their mass DNA bank they want to collect. I just read another article about the Chinese. I got a couple China. China just built a supercomputer that apparently, where is it? I got it written down. I wanted to, I actually looked up the name of it because it's such a crazy thing. All right, anyway. They built like a supercomputer, a quantum supercomputer.
Ooh, quantum computing.
It emits light. Oh my God, I'm so bummed I can't find it on the fly here. Light emitting quantum computer.
Ooh.
Light emitting. I don't know anything about computers, but Google said it's 100 trillion times faster. 100 trillion times faster than the world's fastest supercomputer.
How? That number is
light emitting quantum computing. It is called, here it is, JIUZHANG. Huzangi? I don't know. Anyways, Google said it's faster than the computers that Google owns. And I'm going to go on record here and say that Google helped them build the fucking computer.
Well, that's interesting.
I'm also going to go on record here and say I would bet my dick that the Chinese stole some of that technology. I would bet my whole dick on it that China stole some of our technology to make that computer. That is not their individual thought. That did not come from China exclusively. They stole that information, or we gave it to them. But any regard, that is pirated shit. I don't trust the Chinese. They're president for life. Continue with my Chinese hating narrative today. China had landed a probe on the moon. Don't worry about it. The Space Force was a joke, people. Did I tell you that I was looking up some stuff that the government wanted to build nuclear reactors on the moon?
Oh, that can't be good.
Real news story. It's like 10 years old. That they discussed it's from like Obama's administration. They talked about putting nuclear reactors on there to like test them to see how they would react in no gravity and like all that, and like do trial runs so they don't gotta risk it on Earth. But basically, in the future, when they're thinking like, oh, when everything's running on nuclear energy or whatever, if they run stuff on nuclear energy to do space travel, that they'll have like a fueling station on the moon for it. Which, if the Chinese are dropping stuff on the other side of the moon, I'm sure we're going to build a wall on the fucking moon, people. So get ready for the space wall.
2024.
Space wall.
Trump's campaign. When Trump tries to run again in 2024, he's going to run on the space wall.
I will build the greatest space wall with American rocks ever. He's going to transport rocks from space.
It'll be tremendous.
It'll be tremendous.
There'll be so little gravity.
Like, why don't you use the lunar steel that's up there?
There'll be no gravity on the moon.
Dude. We're gonna be fighting White Walkers soon on the moon.
I don't know how to keep the wall on the moon without it floating away.
I tried having these gravity boots placed, but I couldn't find a vendor. Speaking of moon news, I also saw that Elon Musk, SpaceX, plans to remote control race cars on the moon by 2021.
I saw that. That's not even that far.
No.
It's next year. It's within months.
Dude, that guy, we're going to have submarine races soon. Just wait for that. Apparently it's designed by the guy that designed Ferraris and McLarens. He's a famous car designer, very exotic sports. Steven something. Very exotic cars, so these cars should look literally like hypercar, like super moon hypercars. It's gonna be super cool. Now, I'll finish my point. I'll double back to it. But they're gonna be built, designed and built by 2 high school teams, and they're gonna be raced by the high schoolers as well. So how cool is that?
I'm trying to figure out. Obviously, I'm not an engineer, but I'm trying to figure out how you create enough downforce on a RC car to keep it in a low gravity situation.
Apparently, he's got to figure it out, Dave.
That thing's gonna look wild. It's gonna look like a Lamborghini on steroids.
Or, dude, could you imagine, one of those tanks that Kanye West buys people?
Yeah.
Or one of those.
I know what you. Yeah.
Dude, can you imagine the first pile up on the moon? $40 billion car wrecked in 5 minutes. Oh, dude, I'm going on record now. I will be the first space body guy if you want to send me up there. I will be the first intergalactic collision repair. I get a phone call from you. Be like, dude, what are you doing? Oh, just blowing a quarter panel in. Oh, where are you? The moon.
The paint wouldn't quite hit the body the way you're expecting.
Could you imagine low gravity paint? That'd be so
cool. As soon as it leaves the gun,
you'd see the paint. You'd see the paint moleculized. That'd be so cool. What would that look like? Aerosolized paint and it's already super fine. Oh man, I'm gonna have to YouTube that, see if they've done that. The CDC is saying there's no travel for Christmas. Fuck the CDC.
Unelected, don't care what they say.
Yeah. You didn't write any of the laws, and at further extent, fuck the executive orders because they're not laws. Wisconsin Supreme Court declines to hear the Trump challenge, so I'm assuming that's going to get bumped to a higher court. So, Mississippi police want to have access to live home security footage.
Oh, that's good. You can have it when I give it to you if you need it.
Hey, it's called get a fucking warrant. History class should be you should just be given a constitution. All right, after you understand this a little bit, we'll tell you why it's so important.
I wonder what the odds are, because that's not going to fly.
Oh no, it's alarming private advocacy people. We've cared about that before. We're all wearing masks. We're all walking around wearing masks and not going to family functions.
I'm curious if they just end up trying to backdoor it and going through the companies that create the hardware and software.
David, those companies already do it.
Oh, you're right.
Because hey, when they get a court order, when SimpliSafe or whatever these companies, we need the security camera footage to 4444 blah 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 street. Be like, all right, here it is. They don't even go to you. They just subpoena the company. Just like the government, when they spy on your phone calls, they don't come on your phone. They just go to Verizon. Hey, Verizon, give me every phone call on December the 30th of 2002.
Well, I don't know if you remember, this was a while back, but the FBI tried to make Apple create a backdoor into somebody's phone, and then Apple flat out said that we ain't doing it.
Yeah, and for people who don't understand, if they make a backdoor, like a universal key, it was brought up around when there was the San Bernardino.
You were okay, yeah, that was it. Yep, I was trying to remember why they did that.
Yeah, the shooting, because they were offended by a Christmas party, they came and jacked their coworkers up. Those racist Muslims. Yeah, they wanted them to go into the phone, and Trump's like, make a backdoor key, and they're like, dude, if we make a backdoor key, nobody is safe anymore for ever. We'd have to start all over. We'd have to push Control-Delete on the entire internet. Can you do that? That'd be pretty crazy.
See, that's the problem with the Apple security that I have anyway, is that if they were to do that for one particular phone, one software, it would affect every Apple product that carried that software.
That's what Snowden said. He said that's why they go after iPhone so hard is because it's on literally everything they sell is the same thing. So
Right.
like if they have that key, they can get into not just your iPhone and every iPhone, but every Apple product ever. Like the first iPhone they can hack into.
iPhones, iPads, Mac computers.
Everything. So, but when it comes to Android, there's different makes and models and operating systems. So it's like it's harder for them. But that's, and you know, half of I think it's like a third of Americans own a smartphone, and then half of those people have iPhones. So like, I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions of, billions of devices globally. But yeah, dude, and to go a step further, the Chinese, back to my Chinese hating rhetoric here. The Chinese have that access. They go to Apple in China and say, "You're getting us into this phone," and they're like, "Okay," because if Apple didn't, China would be like, "Hey, Apple, get the fuck out of here," and then China would make their version of Apple. And that's why I say that I think Google helped build that supercomputer, because Google knew that if they didn't help them build that supercomputer, they were going to get somebody else to do it. And Google wants in on China. They want their influence. They want their money. They want their markets. They want all the pros that China brings. And yeah, it's how it's done. Okay, I got a couple more. I'm gonna blitz through a couple more. CNN article. Kids are paying the price of COVID. Oh, really? Apparently, sitting them in front of a computer for 8 hours a day and having them try to learn stuff is not really working out for a lot of people. Who would have thought? I don't know what to do. I don't have answers, people. I'm just saying that this has all been said. None of this is like news. This has all been said that was either going to happen or could be a potential.
Yeah.
So I'm really bringing it up because this should not be a shock to us adults.
Yeah.
You know, we need to exercise higher critical thinking when it comes to this. Like, just shut it all down. Well, what are the effects? What are the backlashes? The World Health Organization, I have a headline about them. They're talking about how the COVID vaccine, something with the COVID vaccine though, but the World Health Organization even came out and said that lockdowns do more harm than good when you look at economic fallout, the public health, mental health, financial health, family, schooling, businesses. Like, it just tears through everything. So
yeah, we've been saying that for a while, that it's very obvious that's going to be the case.
Yeah, and that's why I'm bringing up these articles because this is not new. We've said it. Better people have said it. I mean, this was always like an option. This wasn't like a guessing. I know everybody was on their heels months ago, but nothing should be a shock anymore. This is the new normal, right? The new old normal. So, Cyber Monday, set a record, $10.8 billion this year.
To your point last week, how did they do such a thing when no one had any money?
It's weird. Maybe if I get my vaccine, I'll get my check so I can pay my rent. What's the next time? If you give your firstborn up to the state and put them in adoption, they'll give you a house.
Maybe.
Say those things are far apart, and I have a bridge to sell you, people. Cyber Monday. So obviously, with people not being able to leave their house, that helped. But I was going to highlight how everybody's supposed to be broke, and we're spending billions of dollars on a pagan holiday. But religion's not important. Just the things I benefit from religion. All right. There was a new record set. You ready? New world record.
Ooh,
but not what you're expecting. Not what you're expecting.
Is it a bad record?
No, it's actually pretty remarkable. This just shows how cool humans are and how cool life is. An embryo was frozen for 27 years, became a person. The artificial inseminator, wham bam, thank you, man. It worked. Baby was born healthy. Believe it was a little girl.
Wow.
27 years old. The semen was.
It's officially the oldest baby in the world.
Yeah, it set a record for the longest frozen embryo to become a person.
Do you know?
Hold on, let me rephrase. It was the newest record set for a not full-grown person to become a full-grown person. Sorry.
That's super wild.
It's pretty gnarly. Now onto some depressing killing shit. I saw an article about vaping. Vaping raises lung disease apparently by like 40%. So once again, people, this was prophesized by far better people than me. Let's not be surprised when we reap the rewards of our dumb decisions. I bring it up because I have family members that have quit cigarettes and gone to vaping.
Yeah.
Because their doctors told them, it's a healthier alternative. And that was when they didn't know anything about it.
So did you read into the article? Does it go into specifics? Because I'm trying to figure out, I have a little inside knowledge of vape materials, and I'm trying to figure out what in the vape product itself is causing lung disease.
I didn't I didn't see any language like that, but they just broke down that this study, the people that vaped had higher rates of COPD, higher rates of lung disease, like they had problems. I think asthma was referenced.
They had higher problems than what, people who smoke cigarettes?
Just see if I can find it. Boston University research found that even among vapers who don't smoke, risk of lung disease are 43% higher for current e-cig users. Okay. Current vapors are 34% more for chronic bronchitis and 69% more likely to develop emphysema than non-users. Vapers face 57% higher risk of COPD, a life-threatening lung condition that affects many smokers. Vaping may drive the risk of developing lung disease by more than 40%. Boston University was the first among to establish that vaping alone could raise risk from respiratory problems. E-cigs have been advertised by companies like Juul as safe alternative to smoking, but because the products are relatively new to the market, it's weird.
What are you doing?
Let's wait.
They can't see you.
Yeah, this was a Daily Mail article.
Strange. All right. Well, fair enough. I mean, if they're comparing it to people who did smoke, then that's...
Yeah, they said it said non-vapors or non-smokers too. Sure. Depending on whatever number.
That's fair enough.
But yeah. So, take it with whatever. New York tried to outlaw flavored e-cig juices this year. The beginning of last year, I believe, actually, 19. Yeah. It never got... There was so many loopholes in it and discrepancies. And they basically canned it, and they said, we'll come back to it. So everybody's still smoking bubble gum and strawberry shortcake or whatever. I got a couple more to blow through, and then I got like one really hitter that I want to end on.
Sure.
The Justice Department is looking into bribery schemes from the Trump administration. So I don't know if they're like basically asking for pardons in advance. Some of these people, I don't know who they involve or how deep this goes, but it did break this week. Obviously, this is perfect timing considering Trump is supposed to be leaving office soon. So we'll see how that plays out.
Sure.
1,000 migrant children in United States government custody test positive for COVID. I'm glad that there's all this talk of social distancing and that I have to not go see my grandmother on Christmas and Thanksgiving. But the people breaking into my country that have COVID or get COVID here, like that's fine. Let's don't talk about border security because if they came over our borders.
It's fascinating that we now officially, because of COVID, have more security at our state borders than our federal borders.
Oh, dinger.
Don't you dare travel from Ohio to Pennsylvania, but Mexico to Texas, you're fine.
Talked about SpaceX. Scottish politician, and I did that. Yeah, that one article I was talking about government's new role. They said, job guarantees and free money, utopia, ideas feasted in Europe gets government's new role.
Ooh,
this was a CNN article. Communist News Network. Health, apparently, CDC suggested unelected. Healthcare workers and the elderly should get the vaccine first, which I don't think anybody can argue that, people. I just don't want to get told from people that we're not electing.
Yeah, officially going forward on the show, I think anytime we mention like the CIA, we should say unelected.
Yeah, we should, and we should also preference that they can be right and still we don't care because they're unelected.
I'm just going to go around and start making mandates.
Speaking of, go ahead. You're going to
mentioned
make
this
mandates
on an episode before, but I think I'm just going to go and start making my own mandates that everyone has to follow.
There was an article here in our local paper, but it was from like a guy in like Alabama. A 104-year-old World War II veteran beats COVID just before he turned 104 on his birthday. He said he was physically drained and he was a little mentally fuzzy.
He was physically drained.
Physically drained.
It's almost like he's 104 years old.
Yeah, that killed Nazis. I don't know if he killed Nazis.
I don't know. I guess being 104 and going through a world war will take a lot out of you.
My mind was a little foggy. I'm sure, Grandpa, you drank for 50 years after the war.
I couldn't imagine being 104 years old and not being tired.
Speaking of, I'm still on the COVID front here. Unelected official at the CDC urges, quote, universal indoor masks use not at home, entering a phase of high level of transmissibility.
Nice.
The WHO, I found my little thing about the World Health Organization that I don't care about because they're communist Chinese frontmen.
Unelected.
They approved the COVID vaccine, so I'm sure there's no foul play there. We talked about the House passing marijuana.
Is it fair to say the World Health Organization has approved of a virus before of a country?
Yes. It's kind of funny. Trust the doctors. What about these guys? Yeah, we agree. Let's trust the unelected doctors or the doctors that aren't at elected positions. Still with the COVID news. Germany was bragging about how it did such a good job, right? They locked everything down.
Yeah.
Money, told them to stay
Not
home.
only was Germany bragging about it, other people here were bragging about what a tremendous job Germany did.
No second wave here, people. Their hospitals never got overwhelmed. Yeah, well, you didn't do anything. Oh, that's weird. They just reported their highest daily death, which is still a lot less than ours, but 487 people died in one day. Now, in the article itself, this is from the article, from an official. It said the first wave response meant it became harder for the second wave to control the virus later on.
Oh, weird. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a phrase that has been used.
Is it herd immunity?
Yeah, that's it. That's not real, though, right?
It's just not in America.
Oh, okay.
It's weird, David, that the people that were like, hey, maybe we should just kind of let this kind of slowly work through the population we'll deal with it. Be like, you're trying to kill my grandmother. You racist, because it affects black people more.
Why is Grandma not home?
Well, Grandma's not
Can we
home.
talk about that?
She's out buying AirPod Pros for me for Christmas, bro.
I don't want to sound like a dick, but why do I have to save your grandma?
That's a good point. Personal responsibility, right, David?
Tell her to stay home. You go to the store for her, wash your hands, and then bring your groceries back.
It's weird that the government has implemented a level of mass guilt by association if you don't wear a mask.
I don't understand. Why do I have to shut down my grocery store so grandma doesn't get sick?
David, what if you could deliver her groceries? Would I have to close?
Oh, that'd be very easy. But Walmart does that. So you close, let her go to Walmart.
Yeah, that's right. You don't even give me the option to give at-home delivery. You know what's weird? With all the people out of work, if I owned a business, like a sandwich shop, be like, hey, dude, I will pay you on the books $12 an hour to drive this sandwich and drop it off when someone calls. If I didn't close my business, I could almost employ people right now.
Yes.
Only Subways.
And not only that, you could, in theory, generate more revenue because you could just charge a small, I don't know, like a delivery fee, say.
Ooh, it's weird. And maybe grow your business into a different type of market. It's almost like your business adapted on the fly to compensate for what the market needed.
Well, that's crazy talk. I say you just shut it down. People can go to Walmart.
And then what do we do? Just give the guy money and his business will be fine?
Well, we'll give him a small sum of money once.
Okay. And then when everything's back up and running, everything costs more, we'll just take more money from the business that is barely alive, right?
Yes. Or if you decide to stay open, we'll just harm you further by giving you fines.
Yeah. Or we'll cut your water and electric to your building, which is like
yeah, we could do that too.
Probably against like human rights violations. Could you imagine your government coming out and willingly saying, he did too, by the way. He did. He said, we'll cut your water off. Government Newsom.
Cuomo said that? Okay.
Newsom. He said, we'll cut your water off.
Oh, that's good.
And you know who I seen it on? Joe Rogan's IG. Listen, Joe Rogan will never probably hear this. I love you. I love you dearly, but you're really starting to get me upset. I know you're not politics. I understand. But like, just like I said, this is the last time I'm saying it. The policies that you wanted fucking suck. They have been repeatedly shown that now, and then you flee and you're against it. So I'm glad you made the transition, whatever. I understand. I know. I'm being bitter. I'm not going to hang on to it. But it's just like, I want people to realize, like, if anybody's going to get people red-pilled, it's Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has been red-pilled. It's a good thing. It's like the best, worst person to have it happen to. But, like...
Let me ask this. Because when his show first started, we're talking about the transitioning of Rogan from what I would consider always somewhat moderate. I mean, he was never like a full-on leftist. He's a very free speech loving comedian who likes to be offensive. So he certainly was never like a far left guy, but I'm sure a lot of his viewers are left or far left, and I almost wonder how many of them are, maybe if not even being red pilled, but are at least, at the very least, being brought to the middle somewhat. He's got 10 million people on YouTube. I think it was 10 million. It's a lot.
He's the most downloaded podcast in human history.
He's got to have an effect on people.
He does. And that's why it's, everything that we've gone over the past few weeks, just the Spotify stuff, him wanting to do the debate and just like the people bugging out at Spotify or the tranny comments and him hunting and just like, there's a reason.
You can hear him kind of tiptoeing around the election fraud too, because he's saying things consistently like, well, there wasn't no fraud, right? He's said this several times now. So he's introducing the fact to a lot of people that it's crazy to think that there was no fraud. There is, in fact, some fraud. There has to be. And he says there probably is every election. So in a way, he's making it sound like, listen, no, it's not really a Trump thing, but there's fraud probably every election. And I think a lot of people are listening to that and not thinking that's crazy.
Well, good for him, because it takes a lot of courage to be a strong, outspoken. To change the status quo is like such a hard and courageous thing, because they will destroy you. They used to just kill you. I want freedom. Bam, cut your head off. Now they blackmail you and shadow ban you and tell your wife you got a mistress or whatever. It's just like the cancel is hardcore now. They'll destroy your livelihood.
Well, I got to tell you, Rogan, as a person, he must have a flawlessly clean record. Because you think about it. I mean, think of all the people who would probably want to get rid of him. Not, again, like you said, they used to just kill you, but now they do other things to you. Think of all the things all the people who want to slow him down or shut him up.
And he's got fuck you money, like generational fuck you.
Sure.
Money.
And they haven't been able to do that. So surely his personal life must be in order. If there was even one thing of him cheating or something, it would have been out in the open, guaranteed.
That is a good thing, man. That you're very right. It's a testament to how good of a person he is, for sure.
And it can't be a drug thing because he does them right on air. So,
Well, that too. He's also very, he owns whatever, and he's also come out and made dumb statements and then apologized. So, like, there's such a level of, John's kind of like, I don't want to say Renaissance man, but like that idea of like the man's man, like, you're smart and you're strong and you're empathetic and you're courageous and you're friendly and you're giving and you're successful and you're a family man and you're a good husband. Like, he's like all of the ands.
yeah.
Like he's got the Rubik's cube of like manhood of like I'm serious. Putting that I idolize him puts it lightly. Like, he is a guy that has made me a better person, and I'd love to meet him, but I'll probably never meet him, and fine. But just his experiences and stories, and it's made me a better person. But when I've seen him, whatever it is in his life, like, they're the qualities I want in myself. So you're definitely right, man. Like, his ability to move the needle for his audience, it's super valuable. If anybody's a great moderate, it's Joe Rogan.
The great uniter.
The great uniter is Joe Rogan, not Joe Biden. They got the wrong.
They got the wrong Joe.
Initials. Okay. Real quick, I'm just gonna blow over the COVID stuff. Erie County executive said today, the other day this week, they're trying to not close everything down.
They're trying?
Yeah, Erie County was the same place that guy that ripped up the health department and everything we talked about a couple of weeks ago. That's in the county of Erie. But you know why he's saying that? Because he knows people are not going to take it. I think this is him going like, easy, boy. He's in the pen with the bull, going, easy, easy. I'm just going to try to climb this fence before you murder me. Easy. I think he knows the writing on the wall, man. Even if he can't read what we're saying, he knows. There is a metric, there's a barometer, something, some kind of thermostat was taken and it tested the waters. So I know I've made this point a lot, but I'll just gloss over. Him saying we don't want to close everything down. Johan Omar also came out this week and said that the government should have just paid everybody to stay home. I just don't know where we get this idea that the government has endless money and can just print cash checks that it can't write and just give it to everybody.
They need to find a big pile because there's a lot of talk of canceling student loan debts.
Is that the next crisis that grips America? Let's not change our behavior. Let's just put a Band-Aid on the problem. Yeah. Okay. Did you hear about the monolith that was discovered?
Yeah. Yeah, and then they found it, and then it disappeared, and they found it in like Romania or something. Did you see that? You didn't see the second part, did you? It disappeared, and then they found another one in Romania.
It disappeared? You mean it was moved?
No, it disappeared.
Define disappear. What does disappear mean?
It was there, and now it's not.
So it couldn't have moved?
Well, maybe, but we don't know where it went.
Was the headline in the article disappeared or moved?
It disappeared in the same way Carol Baskin's husband disappeared.
David moved! It didn't disappear! They moved the rock! Why? It's not an alien. Enough.
Well, it wasn't a rock, though.
People. There's no aliens. Back to Rogan, he had on another couple knuckleheads talk about aliens. I'm going to give it a listen, so don't hate on me about aliens, people. But come on! It's probably some artistic shit. Some guy trolling people. I don't...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's very common. It's real normal for an artist.
I got a question. When they just walked up and staggered along this thing, you're like, oh my God, look at that. Did they touch it? Did they test it? Did they move it? Is it movable? Is it super heavy? Is it super light? What is it?
I don't know. What did they do? UPS it out to... Did they UPS it?
Like, look at what the aliens left me, a birthday candle.
And then they did what? UPS it to Romania?
Dude, how do you know there's not 7,000... Dude, you could probably make that out of aluminum foil. It could be boxes and aluminum tape for all I know.
It could be.
It could be.
It is. Maybe.
I also got a picture sent to me. I want to send it to you because apparently it's a leaked photograph. And people are saying it's a heart-shaped UFO in the upper atmosphere. It looks like a balloon, a Batman balloon. I swear to God.
It could be.
I swear to God. It's probably a balloon.
Possibly.
I had something come up on my timeline today. It was actually one of our admins, John, shared it to me 7 years ago. Talked about how the military had drones that could come out of the water, fly, and then dive back in the water and turn into a submarine. They were testing them.
That's pretty awesome.
7 years ago. I'm pretty sure they got some sweet shit by now.
Drone technology is pretty cool.
Yeah, I wonder if they almost look like UFOs, David.
Audi has a car with drone headlights. Have you seen this?
No.
They literally... Okay, so your car, you're driving along, and then your headlights just go... And they lead the way, and then they point beams of light at the road.
What?
Yeah. When we're done here, go look it up on YouTube. It's wild.
They're like floating light bulbs?
Yeah, they detach from the car. And then they get little beams of light on the road in front of you. They get up high, too.
Do you think they'll give me one if I take my COVID vaccine?
Maybe. I doubt those are $1,500.
You know what that COVID vaccine thing reminds me of? Scientology. Like, hey, pay us $100,000, you can bump up a tier in our Scientologists. They're pulling a fucking pyramid scheme on you. Biological breadline, people.
I nominated that to be the title of the show if you haven't thought of one.
No, that's what I was going to suggest because it's too good. All right, I think I got one last... Okay. First of all, I'm going to do Giuliani quick. I have not spent all the time with the testimony. He tested positive for COVID today, just before this broadcast. So, in the conspiracy realm, maybe they wiped it on his doorknob. What do I know?
Didn't he test again to see if he was negative?
I don't know.
You just keep testing until you get your result desired.
Dude, he was out swinging. Was the Trump speech this week as well, too? Am I missing that? I think it was. Fuck. We're so late into the podcast. I want to diligence. Dude, everybody go listen to Trump's speech. At least just the major points. It was so good. They basically laid out why they have such a strong conviction of why they think there was widespread voter fraud. It's, if it's not factual, it's a very compelling argument. Like, let's at least look at it, right? With that
and that's what Kevin's been saying the whole time is he's not saying there is or isn't, but he's saying, shouldn't we at least look? Should we investigate? Is it worth it?
But I will say this, Juliana witnesses Melissa Carone. I don't know if you've seen the video of her.
No.
That woman looks like she came out of an insane asylum. I'm serious. She was like a poll worker. She seems like unhinged. You would call her unhinged if she was an Antifa member. It's my point. It's not a good optic.
Sure.
It's not a good optic. So the Trump, I don't know why it always seems like everything's messy. I know he's like trying to figure everything out while he's going, which I kind of understand. Not really, but like that makes sense to me that it would be kind of clunky until it like takes shape. You get the right pieces. I get that. But like especially this legal battle, you don't have a lot of time. You can't really be shitting around with this. And you grab a psycho girl. I don't know if she's psycho. Sorry if she is, but like she seems like she didn't seem all there. I watched the video myself of people CNN making fun of her basically and saying, "Well, this is she's crazy." I watched. She's kind of crazy. She seemed very unhinged.
Sure.
So clean it up. The ballots. There was apparently videos released of ballots being pulled out from tables. And then apparently they're saying tens of thousands of ballots could have been in there that could have been ran. I believe this was in Wisconsin.
That's good.
I don't know what to believe, dude. I don't know. Let's look at it. Let's see if the court even hears this case before the 21st of January. Because Trump's run out of time.
Yeah.
Unless there's going to be some insurrection act or something.
Well, that's really what it is. That's really what it is right now. They're in a race against the clock. They have a lot to prove in a short period of time.
Yeah, so let's see if they got it. But I want to touch on one last thing, and then I have one last point. I don't know if you remember, but in 2018, we had a couple of foreign diplomats that were over in China and Cuba, and they got like sick. They felt like they got sick, and they thought they had like headaches, and they thought it was like
Oh, I do remember that.
it was like some kind of attack, like a super hypersonic attack or something they called it. Well, the government came out this week and said that they originally thought it was Russia. They have no evidence that it was some kind of attack, but they believe it was microwave energy that did it to these diplomats. They were in China and in Cuba, U.S. diplomats in those countries. So I don't, dude. It sounds crazy to me. Like, but I think this just shows that there's a lot of technology we don't know the full implementations of. But
sure.
I did remember the story. That's why I'm bringing it up, because I did remember that happening, and it was like, oh my God, Russia has microwave energy or supersonic. Like, that was a whole different level of weapon of war.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're saying there's no proof. All right, my last point. Barack Obama, the Lord and Savior, as Jamie Foxx put it. Obama had comments. He said, terms like defund the police are not ways to find compromise. It turns people off.
You don't say.
David, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Doesn't it sound like Barack Obama knows exactly how to say things so that people don't get upset, but get the result that they wanted anyways?
You would say he's a
master architect with words? When people say the old normal, that's what they mean. They mean robbing you of your civil liberties with a smile. I mean, we've had the discussion of defund the police a little bit. I don't even want to get into that because it's heated. But like, just the idea, like, politicians know what they're doing. They know how to say things. They know what they're doing. So Obama has always acknowledged this. He also acknowledged a couple of weeks ago, he had the term bitter clingers when it came to religion and guns, when he talked about basically flyover America. Yeah. And he said he regrets saying that because he knows what it did. Now, I'm not saying Barack's being malicious by any means, but if we take the ideology of Obama saying defund the police, isn't the way to go about what you want, but give them the intensity of the progressives like Kamala Harris. I mean, you're starting to see a blend of this. You know what I mean? That's what the Democrats are becoming, the blend of this extreme behavior that is mixing with the more moderate wing. And the moderates will get swallowed up, just like what would happen on any other side. But it's different when they're the steering party of the narrative. It's different because they're the party that gets the media backing. They're the party that has all of these ties to all these other companies. And, the right, what does the right get swindled into? Being war profiteers, but dude, the left is hijacked, it seems, into academia, entertainment, education. I said that. And the media, in a way, the right is not. So I think that's why it's more prevalent, that it's more dangerous on that side of it's dangerous no matter who says it. But it seems more dangerous to me over there because we're seeing such extreme shit come from that side of the aisle. So I don't know. This is the delicate balancing act of having Democrats and Republicans. But, I mean, I think we've given just enough reasons alone today that, we need to be weary of these politicians and this old normal we're talking about. Because, the old normal, they're trying to say this whole time that Obama and Biden are a lot alike. So, to me, Obama's comment on that is, it says a lot. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly how to sell it to you so you don't get upset.
That's good.
All right, dude. Well, this has been a product. I think I did. Damn it.
You said product.
I forgot the word I had. Yeah, episode. Yeah. This has been fun, first of all. But second of all, this is Ryan and Dave from December 1773. I appreciate everybody sticking around. Stay tuned every week for content. We do the show once a week. Drops at 7 p.m. on Mondays. You like it, share it. Stay locked to all of our channels. December 1773 on every platform. And I'll see everybody next week.
see everyone then.
Thanks, Dave. Later, bud.
See ya. Thanks, everyone.